simple answer is power and money. Because it's a powerful coalition of interests among key elites. And if you just think of it, first there's the Greens who are fundraising on it heavily. Then there's the media who are looking to the Greens for the sensationalism they need to stay alive. Then there's the politicians who are happy to give our money away to scientists who will give them what they need to scare the public into voting for them so they can save their grandchildren from dying of climate change. And then there's the green businesses who are the rent seekers and the crony capitalists who are taking billions of dollars out of the economy. I think, Tom, you said it very well about this negative energy. The wind and solar is in fact a parasite on the larger economy. It takes more energy to create that energy than the energy you create. Therefore, it is a net negative. And most of the solar panels are north and south of that boundary that said it was net positive. But what if you were getting 5% of the energy out that you put in? Would that be considered satisfactory? See, they don't count all the fossil fuels that are used in mining and all the trucking that goes on and all the manufacturing of the aluminum that goes on, right? They don't really count that in their cost of energy because they're getting subsidized so heavily and mandated that the utilities are forced to buy this electricity even though it costs them twice as much. So, and then there's the scientists who are willing to basically go along with this. And it's almost all government grants. So they're on serial government grants, and they come back to the government the next year and say, it's getting even worse. I need more money to study this further, while at the same time saying the science is settled, which should lead you to believe that there's no need for further research. But it doesn't. It leads them into saying they need more money for next year. The polar bear guys have been doing this for like 30 years. They go back to the American and Canadian governments every year and say that the situation is getting more dire. And the same with the coral reef people. They go back and tell Australia they need $500 million to study the reef. How does studying the coral reef save it anyways from climate change? I'm not quite sure of that, how that would work. But anyways, it's a powerful convergence of interests among key elites, and Hollywood is among them. I would include it in the media probably. But there you go. I'd say it's a gravy train, to say the least, and you can't get their heads out of the trough.
I don't disagree with anything that Patrick has said, but I'll give you some specific references. Part of this is about money for governments. The existing carbon pricing regime in Canada to the period to 22 will lead to governments by then receiving about $24 billion a year in additional taxes. And that, I'm absolutely convinced, will go on rising, probably in the order of $10 per ton per year. So by 2030, the revenues to governments from the carbon dioxide taxes alone will be of the order of $70 to $80 billion a year. It'll compete with the revenues that they get from the HST. So that's a powerful incentive. More money means more things that you can spend, and the more money that politicians can spend, the more they believe that they're going to be able to garner public support. At the international level, we didn't have time to talk about the Green Climate Fund, which is the other main commitment, which is in COP21. And the Green Climate Fund is one that the OECD countries are, in principle, committed to contribute $100 billion a year to starting next year. And that $100 billion is then to be provided to the developing countries to help them theoretically in terms of their adaptation and mitigation strategies. India has said that's not enough. They want $1 trillion. Now, in my humble opinion, there's no way that the OECD countries are going to be prepared to provide that much. But you can see what the incentive for the developing countries is. They basically want current levels of foreign aid doubled or tripled.
Just adding a little bit to the money side of the equation, When Climate Works Foundation started up in, I think it was 2008, they were a new organization, and typically new organizations start up with $1,000 in the bank and a few volunteers. Their startup funding was over $1.5 billion, and they're receiving tens of millions every year. So what it means is that when you go to a conference, if you're on that side of the argument, you can put out press releases, you can have conferences, you can do all sorts of things. And that's where the money is actually driving the climate scare. So we're not going to see it go away soon, unfortunately.